Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be talking about Invincible Season 3. We've also got some stuff to go over on the horizon, and we have some news stories and trailers to go over in our On Beat segment. Let's get started with On the Horizon.
On the horizon. On the horizon.
On the Horizon is where we talk about what's coming up in the next week or so, and we're going to start things off with The Studio, which is a new series that stars Seth Rogen, and it's kind of about the Hollywood system, and that's coming on Wednesday, March 26th to Apple TV+. Then we have Side Quest, which is a spin-off of Mythic Quest, which is also on Apple TV+, also coming on Wednesday, March 26th. This one, though, Mythic Quest was not supposed to be like a tie-in with like Ubisoft or something, like they were supposed to have like a game that it connected to. Did that ever, like, materialize?
I have no idea, but I know, like, Ubisoft is financing or sponsoring the show, or was at least.
Huh. I wonder if that, like, if they planned on making a game that it connected to and just didn't, or if they just didn't. I don't know. But I have vague recollections of that. But I have not seen Mythic Quest, but Side Quest is a spin-off of that, and that's coming on Wednesday, March 26th. Atomfall is coming on Thursday, March 27th to PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. The first Berserker Khazan is coming on Thursday, March 27th to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. That's got like a really cool art style. I love the art style in that game.
Yeah.
The Woman in the Yard is coming to theaters on Friday, March 28th, as is Death of a Unicorn. That's one with Jenna Ortega and Paul Rudd. It's at A24, I believe. And A Working Man is also coming to theaters on Friday, March 28th, which is the new Jason Statham movie from the same director he teamed with on The Beekeeper, which I've heard is like ridiculous and hilarious, right? I haven't yet seen. Yeah, so that's what's coming up on the horizon. And now we're going to move on to On Beat. On Beat. On Beat is our news segment, and we've got 3 pieces of news and 3 trailers to go over. Our first piece of news is that there's going to be a new Starship Troopers movie coming from Neill Blomkamp.
District 9?
Yes, who directed District 9, and what was that robot movie he did?
Oh, yeah, with like, I think it was called Real Steel?
No,
Jackman?
No, not that. He didn't do that. He did,
okay, never mind.
Chappie.
Chappie, that's it.
Yeah, that movie Chappie. It had that techno group, D. Antwood in it. Was in that, like, movie or whatever. That really weird techno group from, like, South Africa.
I don't know why my mind went, like, straight to Real Steel. But anyway.
But he is going to be doing a new adaptation of Starship Troopers. This is not based on the movie that we've already gotten, which was kind of like took a more satirical approach to the material. This is supposed to be more faithful to the book, which is interesting, I guess. I've heard, I haven't read the book, so I can't, like, say this and, like, make some claim or something, but I have vague recollections of people talking about the big difference between the book and the movie was that the book was kind of fascistic.
It was, like, sincere and, like, promoting the virtues of, like, the military, which...
And the movie kind of satired that.
Yeah.
So this is going to be kind of like, okay, they're making a pro-fascism movie this time. I don't know. Maybe they're not reading it that way, you know? I don't know.
Maybe they're not making it professional. I was like, I don't know. I've never read the book, so, like, I can't tell you, to be honest.
Yep. And our next news story is that Daniel Radcliffe has been cast in the new series that's coming from Tina Fey. He's going to be playing a filmmaker who's making a documentary about a former football player played by Tracy Morgan. So this is like a triple threat right here. You had me at Tina Fey. You had me even more at Tracy Morgan.
Yeah,
and then you sealed the deal with Daniel Radcliffe.
Daniel Radcliffe, yeah. Oh, yeah. Daniel Radcliffe is, like, he's serious, like, got comedic chops. I mean, he's always, like, excelled at, like, doing, like, these weird movies, these weird roles.
Guns Akimbo, he did that one with, where he's, like, with, like, a guy and he's, like, a dead body or something.
Yeah, he's a dead body, but, like, just watch Weird, the Al Yankovic story.
Yeah.
Just to see, like, what kind of, like, comedic chops Daniel Radcliffe has, because he was amazing in it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how he started his career as a child actor in, like, one of the biggest franchises of all time.
Yeah.
As, like, the iconic lead of that franchise. And, like, you'd think, like, oh, that's just gonna be him for the rest of his life. And then he kept making movies, but he made this, like, hard turn into comedy.
Yes.
It's just interesting. Interesting career trajectory for him. So, this is going to continue that. So that's cool. And like we said, Tina Fey and Tracy Morgan, it's like a non-miss. You can't miss with that.
No, you cannot.
Our next news story, Coyote versus Acme, expected to be rescued from the villainous clutches of David Zaslav by Ketchup Entertainment.
I'm super stoked if this happens. Coyote versus Acme looks like it's going to be a great movie. I love the premise. It's about, like, one of my favorite Looney Tunes characters, which is a coyote. The idea of the premise is that Coyote's been using, like, Acme products to try to get the Roadrunner, and they always backfire on him. They always malfunction. And so he's finally taken them to court to sue them, and he's got, like, Will Forte as his lawyer. And it's live action, you know, except obviously the Looney Tunes, like, the Coyote and stuff are animated. So it's, like, got that Roger Rabbit, like, thing going with it. I mean, it just sounded wonderful. And then David Zaslav was just like, well, we can't have nice things, so we're just not going to release it and do a tax write-off. So, like, that was, like, super disappointing. And so hopefully this gets picked up and it sees the light of day and people can actually watch it.
Yeah, so this is our This Week in Zaslav story.
Yeah, this is our This Week in Zaslav. There's always something with Zaslav. Yeah. Always something going on with that guy.
This time it might be good news. For those who just don't know, like, who for some reason were under a rock when all this was happening, when Zaslav was really taking over the whole operation at Time Warner, when he really kind of was flexing his might as the new CEO, he basically went through and said, like, okay, what can I cancel and get rid of forever so that nobody can ever watch it that's completed as a film, but we can just completely remove it from our service, get rid of it before it even goes to theaters, make it impossible to ever watch and get a tax write-off for. And he did this with a number of things. He did it with Batgirl, a completed movie, completely done, in the can, ready to go, just it'll never be seen. It's gone. And then he did it with this Coyote versus Acme, which was getting a lot of positive attention, a lot of good stuff from the press screenings that were going on for it, and just gone. Seemingly gone, you know? And now, I guess not. Like, I guess maybe there's a chance that we're gonna actually be getting this. So,
yeah,
I don't know how that works with the whole tax write-off process and stuff, because they're supposed to not be allowed to have it, you know?
So, I mean, yeah, hopefully, like, there was a story last year where Warner Brothers was shopping the film around, and, like, apparently, like, there were no buyers. So it looked like that was it. And, you know, like, Ketchup Entertainment, they just released The Day the World Blew Up, Looney Tunes, and a fully animated movie, which was also, like, a movie that was dropped by Warner Brothers, dropped by David Zaslav. Because he has something against the Looney Tunes for some reason. Like, he has something against every franchise that isn't hypercurrent. Yeah.
All he's interested in is DC,
Harry Potter,
Lord of the Rings, and Game of Thrones. That's all he cares about.
He keeps, like, reiterating, oh, those are our core franchises.
Yeah. Warner Bros. Has such this massive catalog of stuff. I mean, they got rid of their whole music library.
Looney Tunes should be one of your core franchises. It's literally the brand that built Warner Brothers as a studio.
And they had Sesame Street too, right? Didn't they also get rid of that?
Yes. Yeah, they did. They had acquired Sesame Street from PBS quite a while ago, and Zaslav yeeting that out the door.
Yeah, and then, like I said, they also got rid of
Big Bird.
They got rid of their entire, like, classic catalog of, like, Warner Brothers music. Yeah. It was like something that was going to make them money for eternity. Anything that was going to license music that came out through Warner Bros., which is a lot, by the way, it was going to have to go through them and pay them. That was, like, basically free money that they just had sitting around. It was just going to keep printing them money for eternity. And they got rid of that. They got rid of the entire catalog.
Like, no, can't have that.
Yeah, it's just a lot of short-sighted bad decisions. And one of them is going against Looney Tunes, going like, oh, nobody cares about Looney Tunes anymore, so we're going to just get rid of it and not give it any chance, even though it's important to the company, important to animation, important to film, important to television. It's like, no, it doesn't matter. Gone. So it's actually refreshing to have our This Week in Zaslav segment actually be good news, or potentially good news, that something might be saved from him, from Zaslav, not by him. I should clarify.
Some rare good news in David Zaslav land.
Yeah. Again, not something good he's doing. It's something that, good that he's maybe allowing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it for our regular news stories, and now we're going to move on to our trailers. We've got 3 trailers to go over this week. There were actually quite a few good trailers this week, but we had to kind of cut it down, and we're down to 3. And we're going to start things off with, we finally got the trailer for Black Mirror, which is actually coming out pretty soon. I think that's coming out in like 2 weeks or something.
Yeah, it's got like a couple like sequel episodes. We saw like the sequel to USS McAllister, whatever episode, which I believe the original had like Jesse Plemons.
Did you notice the guy from Bandersnatch, like Will Porte's character? Or what's his name? The guy he was in Guardians 3.
Oh, yeah.
And he was in that Bandersnatch, which was the interactive Black Mirror episode. That's like, I think now gone. Like, I think all the interactive stuff's gone off of Netflix now. But they had that whole interactive Black Mirror episode, and he played the guy, like the head of the game company or whatever, and he was in the trailer. So I don't know.
Are they doing like, oh, this is all our greatest hits?
He might be in the USS Callister movie, because that was also about a game.
Right.
So it could be connected to that. It could be its own episode that's separate. I don't know, but he was in the trailer. I saw him.
It looked
maybe they recut Bandersnatch into just an episode.
Maybe, yeah.
Since they took it down. Since it's gone from Netflix now. Bandersnatch is gone.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because, like, how difficult was it for them to just leave it up?
I guess there was issues with, like, the software because it was, like, an interactive experience. They took down all their interactive ones. They had, like, that Kimmy Schmidt one.
I remember the Kimmy Schmidt. Yeah, I did the Kimmy Schmidt one, and I did the Black Mirror one.
Yeah, I did both of those. There were some other ones, too. There was, like, who's that survivalist guy, that British Bear Grylls. They did one with him.
Oh, I had no idea they had a Bear Grylls one on there.
And then they had some, like, ones that were more for, like, kids and stuff that were on there as well. They did quite a few of them, and they're just all gone now, so maybe that's what it is. I mean, I could totally see that being the case, where they just go, well, we have this, let's just recut it as an episode. Because they have the footage, they can recut it, take out the interactive aspects, and just kind of turn it into an episode, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's fair.
But maybe that's what they're doing. I don't know. Maybe it's calling back to it. Maybe he's in the USS Callister sequel one. I don't know. But Black Mirror is always interesting. It's not always good. It's always interesting, though. There's always something interesting we're checking out.
Yeah, it's always provocative, even when it's trash.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
So I'm kind of excited. There's some stuff that looks good. I wish they'd kind of continued or spun off the whole, like, Red Mirror thing that they did last season.
Oh, yeah.
They should just turn Red Mirror into its own thing.
They're not doing that again, apparently.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
I think that would actually have been, like, cool if they just done, like, a full spin-off series just called Red Mirror, you know?
Oh, yeah, that would have been pretty cool.
But, yeah, so Black Mirror's coming back. Lots of tie-in stuff. There was some rumors going around that people were thinking that this was going to be, like, the final season, but there's, like, nothing that substantiates that. It's just pure rumor.
There's nothing that says that.
So, I think this would work best if it's just something kind of like what they were doing initially before they had actually ended up ending Curb Your Enthusiasm, where they basically just had a deal with HBO, and Larry David had a deal where it was just like, you know, I'll come back and do another season when I feel like there's something I want to do a season about. That's that's what they should do with Black Mirror. Just, you know, like, it'll go away, and then if Charlie Brooker's like, you know what, I got like 3 or 4 ideas for some Black Mirror episodes, then do another season. I think that's kind of like the right way to do that. So I'm hoping that's kind of what goes for the future. But yeah, it's, like I said, Black Mirror is always interesting. Not always good, but always interesting. Next, we got a trailer for The Life of Chuck. This is kind of more teaser than trailer. But yeah, I mean, the big thing here is who's involved. So this is based on like a Stephen King story. It was written and directed by Mike Flanagan, who really loves doing Stephen King stories. And it stars Tom Hiddleston. It has a really big cast besides Tom Hiddleston, but Tom Hiddleston's in the lead.
Yeah,
in the trailer, you see him. He's like the guy you see in the trailer, in the teaser, I guess. But yeah, I mean, there's not too terribly much to glean from this. I think what's interesting is that they specifically, when they mention Stephen King, they specifically target 3 of his works, and they're like his non-horror works. They mention The Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, and Stand By Me.
Yeah.
Because Stephen King he has like kind of 3 genres he floats in. He has his horror stuff, he has the Dark Tower stuff, which is like connects all of his works together, I guess. And then he has like what usually come from short stories and are more like dramatic stuff, like Shawshank Redemption, Green Mile, and Stand By Me, which are the 3 that they mentioned specifically here.
Yeah, it's about the apocalypse, it's about the end of the world, and it's about a man named Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
And Vanity Fair did like a whole feature on this. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I didn't see it.
Mike Flanagan describes it as an apocalyptic version of It's a Wonderful Life.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I do like Stephen King's kind of more dramatic, less horror stuff, you know? I mean, all those are good. The Shawshank Redemption, Green Mile, and Stand By Me are all like great films.
Yeah. It's like, Vanity Fair says, the life of Chuck uses doomsday to evoke some unlikely sentiments such as wistfulness, gratitude, and even joy.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting people attached. That's like the main thing here.
Very interesting, very talented people attached. It's got like this crazy cast, in addition to Tom Hiddleston, we got Karen Gillan, Mark Hamill's gonna be in this, Matthew Lillard, Kate Siegel, David Dastmalchian, like
from Late Night with the Devil.
From Late Night with the Devil. Yeah.
And the Polka Dot Man from the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, from the Suicide Squad, yeah. Rahul Kohli, I don't know if I said that correctly.
From iZombie, right?
Yeah, from iZombie. He's been getting a lot more work lately too.
He's worked he's a regular for Mike Flanagan.
Yes. Yeah, he's a Mike Flanagan regular.
And Mark Hamill had just worked with Mike Flanagan too, just recently with the House of Usher, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So he's got his crew of regulars that's starting to pop up in this, it looks like. So that's cool.
Yes. So the movie definitely sounds cool, looks cool. Like I'm excited for it.
Yep. And then lastly, we got a trailer for something we'd had a teaser for it before, but it was only in one of those coming up next year on HBO kind of videos that come out, whenever there's the finale episode of House of the Dragon season 2, and they'll put a trailer shows everything coming in the next year from them. A lot of that stuff we still haven't seen, that show that's connected to It, for example, was one of the ones that was in that trailer. And one of the ones that was shown very briefly, kind of blink and you miss it, was the series Duster, which is from J.J. Abrams. He's actually producing this and was involved in the writing. This isn't one of the ones where he kind of isn't really involved at all. This is one of the ones where he actually was involved in the creation of the process of the show. And it stars Josh Holloway, who played Sawyer in Lost.
Oh yeah. Man, I saw this, I was like, wait, literally, Josh Holloway, I haven't seen him in anything since Lost ended.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, did this dude retire? What happened?
He was in a few things. There was a sci-fi show about aliens that were they kind of had an apartheid state over Los Angeles or something.
Oh, interesting.
And there was a resistance kind of building up, and he was in that. And then he was in something else too, that he was on some procedural show on CBS or something.
He was Farmer Josh on an episode of Yo Gabba Gabba.
See, there you go. I think what this really shows is that
Sawyer
Sawyer never got out of the 70s and Lost.
Right. Okay, apparently he has a reoccurring role on Yellowstone. That's a show I definitely don't watch.
Yeah, he was in some other procedural show, I believe, too. I can't remember. I think he was the lead in it, but I don't think it only lasted one season or something.
This looks like a lot of fun. This looks like a crime caper. Josh Holloway is playing a con man or something. Going back to his Lost roots here.
All right, so I'd mentioned him, so I just figured I'd clarify. The show where he played the alien, or not the alien, where the show I mentioned was an apartheid state run by aliens or whatever in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
It was called Colony, and the procedural show I was thinking of was called Intelligence.
Oh, okay. Thanks for clarification.
That was a CBS procedural.
I was watching this thing, and it's and this is the part that's disappointing, and it's not anybody's fault. It's not anybody did anything or anything, but I saw Keith David was in this as one of the characters, Ezra, and unfortunately, rest in peace, Keith David. I don't know if he was meant to be a major character in the show, but I mean,
he looks like he's the lead villain or something.
It's good to see him. I love Keith David. Keith David was excellent. The sadness is we know we're not going to get a lot of him in the show,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. But I mean, that's the way things are. But yeah, I just wanted to like point that out.
There's something, I can't remember what it was. There was something recently that had an actor who passed away, and they were talking about how he's going to be like, it's a posthumous role that's coming out. And he died like years ago. It is Kevin Conroy.
Oh, Kevin Conroy, yeah.
He's in something that's coming up. I can't remember what it was.
I think it's an animated project, and like the explanation given is because like animation is done way in advance.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
He still has like, yeah.
And usually they film the lines before they even animate and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah.
They record the lines before they animate. So yeah, like he's gonna be popping up in something. And he passed away like 2 years ago, I think.
Yes, he did. Yeah, upcoming one. Relatively Super, according to this. That's what it's called. A look at the lives of the relatives of the world's greatest superheroes. Also features Mark Hamill, Michael Dorn, Kevin Conroy in his like last role. John Heder apparently is his voice in that.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
But yeah, so that's Duster. We should mention what the show actually is about. It looks like it takes place in the 70s. I believe it's the female character is the lead, and she is like the first like black police officer or something in this area.
FBI agent.
Or FBI agent, yeah. And then she partners up with Josh Holloway's character, who's kind of like the wild character or whatever.
Yeah, he's by
the books and he's wild.
Yeah, Wikipedia describes Josh Holloway's character as a getaway driver, so he's a career criminal.
Mm-hmm.
So she teams up with him, and then they go bust crime.
Yep.
And Keith David is involved for some of it, unfortunately.
Well, unfortunately for only some of it, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Unfortunately, only some of it. Because Keith David was amazing. But it's like, yeah.
Yeah, but that is it for our On Beat segment, and now we're moving on to our final segment, full spoilers. This week on Full Spoilers, we are talking about Season 3 of Invincible. This time they didn't split the season for you, Will. They did that just for you.
Yeah, they did that just for me. Thank you. Thank you, like, Invincible showrunners for, like, listening to the podcast, because we know they're fans. We know Robert Kirkman's a fan.
Yeah.
And, like, taking
and Seth Rogen just won't stop. He just won't shut up talking about us.
Right, yeah.
He's just, my phone's constantly ringing, and it's just like, it's just,
Hey, like, so many
send
emails.
Send him straight to voicemail, yeah.
From Seth. I'm like, Seth, calm down.
But yeah, so Season 3 of Invincible, we should mention Season 2 ended with Angstrom Levy going after Mark going after his family, and
bashing
Mark
his head in.
Thinking he killed him.
Yeah.
And that's how we left things off, basically. We jump into Season 3, and it starts off like Mark's like in hard training. He's getting much, much stronger. He's working much harder, trying to become on the level of what his dad was when he was Omni-Man, so that they can fight off the Viltrum invasion when it eventually comes. And that's kind of where everything kicks off. And it kind of starts off with like, mostly seems to be like a conflict between Mark and Cecil, who is Walton Goggins' character. He's kind of like runs the division or whatever. And that's kind of the main thread that's running through the season for most of it, is just that kind of disparity between Mark and Cecil.
Mark's falling out with Cecil at the beginning of the season, and then like, everything else like happening around that.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of different storylines going on here. It's not like a singular kind of real focused story. That seems to be the case with Invincible in general, but I think it's even more so here than it was like last season. There's just like a lot of different threads going on. So where do you want to start?
Anywhere,
Let's pick a character and jump in.
Let's go with Angstrom Levy. Here's the thing. I just thought like it was funny. Like Invincible does that. He has like no skull, but he's still alive.
Yeah.
His face is like completely, it's putty, but he still manages to survive it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the big dramatic part at the end of season 2, was Mark beating Angstrom Levy to death and him having to cope with that and deal with that. Turns out he's not dead. He was beaten to a pulp and then reconstructed by a
the
group called the Technicians, who are voiced by Doug Bradley.
Yes.
Pinhead himself.
Pinhead himself, yeah. That does not go nice places. I think we'll get back to that later. Right now, like, we should talk about, like, Mark's brother.
Oliver,
yeah.
Oliver's older. He's aged. aged up. He's raced the Thraxans. That race, they age very, very quickly. He's half Viltrumite, half Thraxan. So he ages quickly, but not that quickly. But he's still like, he's basically like a 10-year-old now. So like over the course of a year, he went from being like a toddler to like a 10-year-old.
And he's already like developed his powers. So he's already super strong. He's already flying around, you know, and he's anxious to get out there and be a superhero.
Yeah. And he's like kind of ignoring Debbie, who's kind of acting as his surrogate mom, and ignoring Mark, who's like training him, and he wants to be like Mark, but he feels like he's just constantly being put on the back burner, and he just wants to be a superhero. He's basically the same way that Mark was so excited to be a superhero in the first season of Invincible, except he's still a kid, where Mark was like a teenager. So the way that plays into the story here is that Oliver can be a little reckless. Kids, there's like a thing my sister told me about where she studied psychology in college, and there's a thing where you can't diagnose children as like psychopaths or sociopaths because kids, like all kids, basically have too many traits that it would create too many false positives. So basically all children are like psychopaths. They just haven't learned to not be psychopaths yet. And that's kind of what they're playing into here, is that you have this kid, he's like 10, he's basically got godlike powers.
Yeah.
Viltrumite abilities and stuff. And he doesn't really understand right from wrong yet. And,
he doesn't understand. Yeah, he doesn't like fully like grasp morality. But like, there's also like a logic to like his thinking, which is like, and you gotta remember, Thraxans, they have photographic memories. Like, he was an infant when Angstrom Levy attacked his home, attacked his mother and stuff, but he still remembers that perfectly. So he's got like a little bit of a perspective on it, which is like, we have the power to just get rid of these people permanently. They keep coming back. Why don't we do that? Yeah. Why don't we just do that?
He kills the Muller twins.
Yeah, he kills the Muller twins, who have been like recurring villains since season 1, you know?
Yeah, one of them he kills kind of in the heat of battle, and the other one was like running away from him, like trying to escape him, and he hunts him down and kills him.
Yeah, and in a way, Oliver has a point, because the Muller brothers do keep coming back and keep causing trouble, and I guess now that won't be happening. But it's also like the morality of it, the ethics of it, which is like, you can't operate that way, even if that leaves the door open for the possibility of more bad things happening.
Yeah, I'm thinking Oliver needs to talk to his uncle, his Uncle Ben.
Right, yeah, exactly. With great power comes great responsibility. But it's interesting to like where that goes by the end of the season, which we will get back around to. But it's just, Oliver's journey is like, he's growing up, he's getting used to his powers, and Mark and his mother are trying to teach Oliver ethics, but they're also trying to toe this line as to like, trying to keep him on a leash, or trying to keep him like out of danger, and really struggling to find like the balance there, like how much freedom they should give him versus, like how much tethering he needs.
Yeah, they kind of, they want him on a kind of a tight leash, but he's got too much power for that to work. So they have to kind of like negotiate.
And they also like have to, like, for the sake of his own development too, they have to like, let him have some freedom.
You have to let him be a kid too,
Yeah, have to let him be a kid, and they're trying to figure, so it's kind of like they're trying to figure out too, how to raise this kid.
Debbie, meanwhile, is hooking up with a new guy, a coworker named Paul.
Yes.
And he feels incredibly uncomfortable because she immediately tells him Oliver and Mark's secret identities, just kind of blows that all right out to the open. And now, like, this guy, he's just like a normal guy, has to like try to figure out how he fits into this world. And he's trying really hard. He wins the award for Stepfather of the Year for really trying. Not technically the stepfather, only dating Debbie, but like he's really trying hard to kind of fit in with the family. And there's a painfully awkward moment at a dinner where he's like telling a story about something that happened at work and stuff, and they're just kind of like laughing, like, okay, like, how is this relevant to us? We're superheroes,
Right. Oh yeah, exactly.
So you have that going on. That's kind of going on with Debbie right now, and Mark's story is kind of interesting this season because because he's dealing with a lot of, like, I guess, Viltrumite traits that have come up in him. And this kind of started last season with Angstrom Levy and stuff, and just, like, him dealing with, like, his anger and his frustration and, like, how he can become incredibly threatening. Because right now he's, like, the most powerful figure on Earth.
Yeah.
And so he'll, like, get in someone's face and it's, like, terrifying, but he doesn't understand, like, how terrifying it is that when he does that, because he's just not thinking of it from that perspective. There's a moment between him and Cecil where Cecil says, "Why do you need something to protect you from me?" or something. And he's all like, "I don't know if you realize this, but you're scaring the shit out of me right now."
Right, yeah.
And Mark just doesn't get it. You know, it's like he's got this, like, Viltrumite rage. That's like a trait of his race, you know? And he has to, like, kind of get that under control. And so that all ties into everything going on with his parents and with, or not his parents, with Debbie and with Oliver, and Debbie's relationship with Paul, and how she kind of, like, spilled out his secret identity and how he's, like, angry about that. And of course, that all comes into play later on too, when you see different versions of Invincible, but we'll get to that later. Mark and Adam Eve are dating this season.
Yeah, they start dating. Mark, spurred on by, like, the older Adam Eve he met last season, and what she says, he finally, like, asks her out.
He finally gets pushed into it from his friend. His friend William, like, pushes him into it. Like, says, like,
and then he's like,
to do this.
Then he does the stupid thing and, like, says, "Oh, I met the older you who said you were lonely." It's like, why would you say that, Mark?
Yeah.
why would that leave your mouth? And he pisses her off, like, but it doesn't last long. Thankfully, they don't drag that drama out.
Yeah, they get back to their relationship and they're trying to go about their thing, and they're just getting interrupted by life as superheroes. Adam Eve is now, like, learning structural engineering.
Yes.
Learned her lesson from last season.
Right.
And her and Mark are trying to kind of make it work dating, and Mark keeps getting pulled away by big catastrophe events. He gets pulled away by literally into the future by two twin brothers, I believe they're twins, that are voiced by Zolo, who played Miguel in Cobra Kai. He voiced both of them, and they take him to the future.
Yeah, a future being brutally ruled by the Immortal.
Yes, and they need Mark to kind of take out the Immortal to, like, you know, save everybody. And the Immortal is fine with being taken out. He wants Mark to take him out. He's lost grip with reality.
Yeah, he finds, like, an Immortal who's basically gone insane. And apparently, like, that world's Mark went off somewhere, left him in charge, and didn't come back.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something interesting, because, like, this episode doesn't, like, really touch upon it, because it's basically all about the Immortal here. But the main Invincible universe, like, the Mark that we follow, that's the only good Mark in the multiverse. Like, every other Mark is, like, evil.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like...
But this Mark that left Earth is him, or, like, was him, because you have different dimensions, but then you have different timelines.
Yeah, too. This is, like, in the future, right? Yeah, so this isn't, like, an alternate universe. This
isn't an evil Invincible that left Earth. This is, like, a Invincible that we're eventually going to reach, but things will be different because he's already been affected by going to the future and stuff. So things have changed based on that. But this is kind of hard to cover, because there are a lot of different storylines that are going on.
There's a lot, like, going on in this season. Yeah, Mark's forced to kill this version of the Immortal, you know, and that leaves him, like, deeply affected, because, like, this is the second time he's killed somebody, right? And this is coming off the same time where he's trying to, like, teach Oliver not to kill, not to be bloodthirsty. And so this is deeply affecting him. Mark's state, and then, like, things go from bad to worse, because, you know, Angstrom Levy shows back up with an army of Marks.
Yeah. So Angstrom Levy's still alive. He got rescued by those, the technicians, and he shows up with basically a bunch of evil Marks from the multiverse and unleashes them to basically destroy Invincible's reputation. Just has them go around just tearing everything up. And you have, like, this whole group of different versions of Invincible. Like, there's one that's, like, very much in touch with his Viltrumite origins. He's got, like, a mustache. He's dressed like a Viltrumite. You have one that's got, like, a mohawk that's kind of, like, batshit crazy. You have a few that just kind of look almost like normal Invincible. You have one that's, like, horribly scarred. You just have all these different versions of Invincible.
Yeah.
And they're all fucking evil.
And they're all evil. They're all going out. I might note that we're introduced to a new villain this season, Powerplex, who is a a character who has a grudge against Mark because of what happened during Mark's fight with Omni-Man.
This is well done because in the fight with Omni-Man, not even necessarily the fight, but like Omni-Man like basically dragged Mark through people to like try to teach him a lesson. Like basically like there's a scene where he holds his head in front of a subway and like makes it so that the people are dying through Mark. Like basically like his body is killing them.
Made it a point to kill as much people as possible with Mark and in front of Mark, you know, to try and teach Mark a lesson.
Yeah, like using Mark as a weapon to kill people.
Yeah,
I don't mean like manipulate. I mean like literally holding his head in front of a speeding subway train so that like the people that come in contact are being like ripped into pieces in front of him, you know? And it's pretty clever because at the end of that episode in season 1, in the season 1 finale, or towards the end of it, there's a part where they're in Chicago. That's where most of this devastation is happening. And he sees this like mother and child, this like mother and this little girl, and he tries to save them. And the next time he sees them, they're just dead. Like he gets manhandled by Omni-Man, and then he's trying to desperately to save these two, and then they're just dead in front of him.
Yeah.
Like he's literally like holding the arm of the girl.
Yeah.
And
yeah, exactly.
They go back to that exact mother and daughter.
Yeah.
Because that mother and daughter is the sister and niece of Powerplex, the character.
Powerplex, yeah.
Who's, by the way, voiced by Aaron Paul.
Voiced by Aaron Paul, yeah. Fantastic. And he blames Mark for their deaths. So he's kind of like obsessed with this idea of why is everybody treating Mark like a hero? Why isn't he being held accountable for what happened?
So he tries to go about it legally. He gets involved in Cecil's group, like undercover basically, to gather information and tries to give this to like as a whistleblower to like get Mark taken to court. But like nobody's going to do that because Mark's like required to keep the Earth safe, you know? So nobody's like going along with it to do it. So he's like, nobody's going to agree with me. And then he starts kind of turning to his own powers as a way to like confront Invincible. He wants to like kill Invincible, and he uses technology from Cecil's group and all this stuff.
To enhance his powers.
To enhance his powers. He has like
plates.
electrical abilities.
Yeah. He gets these plates from like the lab in Cecil's like organization. He has like the plates installed in his body, and basically what happens is when his body takes damage, you know, when his body like takes hits, it like stores electrical energy in those plates, and then the more it takes, the more energy gets stored, and then he can just unleash it all in a massive blast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so like he could do like way more damage that way than like with his powers normally.
Yeah. And so he's like going after Mark, and he fights like God, what's his name? For anybody listening who doesn't know, like we have our show notes in front of us, and there are so many fucking characters.
There's so many names in here.
Yeah. He fights Shapesmith.
Yeah, Shapesmith shows up. He's trying to go to Invincible and just showing up and fighting him. But Invincible is like, you know, he's dealing with his own stuff, and he decides like he doesn't need to go out and fight this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Cause it's just like, oh, why do I need to fight every villain?
There are other heroes, yeah.
Yeah. So like it's kind of funny. So like nothing Powerplex could do could get like Invincible to show up until like the end when they're like at like the memorial for like the victims.
Mm-hmm.
And like Invincible like confronts them, and like so does Adam Eve, and then they kind of like stop him, you know, they kind of manage to stop him and get him arrested.
Well, when that happens, it's just Adam Eve. Like Invincible doesn't even fight him. Like she takes it. She's like, don't give him what he wants.
Right.
I'll take care of him. She beats him, and then the Guardians show up and they take him into custody.
He manages to get himself free and all these shenanigans. It ends up with him captured and being put into like high security, and then Angstrom Levy shows up with the evil Invincibles, and they destroy the prison.
Well, you should point out thing on Powerplex is that he accidentally kills his wife and child.
That doesn't happen until the second part. Oh yeah, no,
that happens in his episode. All the Powerplex stuff is in one episode.
Okay,
and that happens at the end of the episode. He escapes.
That's right.
He escapes. He meets up with his wife. His wife is just as crazy as his about getting revenge on Mark, and she has him set up this plan where they're gonna play hostages. Basically, they're gonna pretend that he took his wife and the child hostage and using them to force Invincible to show up. Invincible shows up, tries to apologize and everything, and say, I remember then there's nothing I can do, whatever. And he's like, it's just luring him into a trap. He even like tries to save at one point the wife, and she like spits in his face. And he's like, what the fuck? Like, yeah, I'm trying to save you. And then he basically, Powerplex forces him to fight, and it generates enough power. Powerplex unleashes it on Invincible. It does nothing to Invincible. Invincible's just too strong. But then he turns around and his wife and child are both fried from his own power.
Yeah, which he clearly did, but like Invincible blames himself.
Mm-hmm. That's when he's taken into custody. Now he's in like max security at this point.
And then he's released. What's funny is like during the Invincible War, which is what's called when Angstrom Levy unleashes all these evil marks on the world, it's called the Invincible War. It's funny, during the Invincible War, he's freed, and he actually manages to help kill like one of the Invincibles.
Yeah, he gets some satisfaction, but then the real Invincible shows up and he like tries to attack him and gets like taken right back into custody.
Yeah.
Since we're on this part of the story, let's talk about Rex.
Oh, that's where I was exactly headed. So you jumped me. Go ahead. You take the lead.
So this season, Rex's story is about him building up a relationship with Shrinking Ray. And the two of them are building up a relationship. She decides she doesn't want to be a hero anymore. She feels compelled to, like she has to, but she wants to go away from it. He still wants to be a hero, but like he's making a real effort. He's really turned around in the last couple of seasons. Like, Rex is really, especially after his near-death moment when Ray almost died too, he kind of had a real kind of change of heart about the way he treats women and stuff and the way he's done. And so he's wooing Ray this season, and he's really putting in the work, really trying hard to like break from what he knows. He learns how to cook. And this is coming from somebody that is the kind of person that basically survived off of like Hot Pockets and Cheetos. And now he's like learning how to cook and trying to like do things, because he's trying to kind of be there for Ray and like give her kind of those aspects of normalcy in her life that she wants so desperately, that makes her decide she wants to get out of the living as a hero. And the two of them are kind of working through their stuff, and then the Invincible War starts. And one of the Invincibles is attacking the Guardians of the Globe, basically, you know, has most of them down and out.
Yeah. I mean, they lose that fight. Handily.
They lose pretty badly. Everyone's in pretty bad shape. And Rex ends up fighting him, is losing badly until he sacrifices himself.
Yeah.
Rex has Gambit-like powers.
Yeah,
where he can charge things up and make them explode, and he charges up his own skeleton.
Yeah, because like the evil like Mark Invincible is like, you got nothing left to charge. You have nothing. You're done. And he's like, no, I have one thing left. And he charges up his skeleton.
Mm-hmm. He literally puts his hand inside his body. And because he's cut open, you know, and he grabs onto like his ribs or something and charges up his whole skeleton and blows up and takes out that mark with him.
Yeah, exactly.
But that means Rex is gone.
Yeah, Rex is dead, which is crazy. Like that's the big shock of the season.
Yeah, and there's no time to grieve or anything because Mark is helping out with the restoration of the cities and all the damage that the Invincibles cause.
Well, we should like mention why the Invincibles leave. It's because Angstrom Levy, they try to turn on Angstrom Levy. They tried to turn on Angstrom Levy, and he just cast them off into like, you know, like the barren void dimension.
Yeah, I believe it's the same one that he almost got killed in by Mark in the first season.
It's the one he sent Mark to at the end of the last season. Yeah,
and so they're all get sent off there. They're out of the picture now. And then Mark and Angstrom Levy fight, and Levy's making use of all this technology in his portals to fight. It doesn't really help him in the end. He loses. But again, he gets saved.
Yeah, he gets saved again by the technicians. Only this time the technicians aren't like so willing to like help him. You know, he's like, they're kind of like, well, you owe us. You know,
now you're our property, basically.
Yeah, now you're our property. So Angstrom Levy survives that encounter with Mark again, and you know, and they're doing like restoration cleanup work when all of a sudden a Viltrumite shows up right after all that crap happened, and this one is a big old dude who calls himself Conquest.
Mm-hmm. Voiced by Jeffrey D. Morgan. That's Negan from The Walking Dead. He also played Papa Winchester.
Yep, Papa
in
Winchester.
Supernatural.
This is the final episode. This is the finale. This guy is no joke.
Yeah, it's kind of a retread of the fight between Mark and Omni-Man in season 1.
Yes.
They're retreading on the same ideas of like these two, they're fighting in like, it starts in like a city. There's just tons of civilian casualties. Conquest is bloodthirsty and enjoys like killing people like as he's fighting Mark. So it's just people are dying left and right.
The thing is like the stakes are higher because there's no chance Conquest is going to be swayed by sentimentality or or guilt, like the way they got rid of Omni.
Mark is not Conquest's son.
No.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Mark is going to legitimately have to have to take this guy out, for it to end. And it is a brutal knockdown drag out fight, especially since Conquest is I believe the strongest Viltrumite we've seen on the show yet.
We've seen so far, yeah. He's supposed to be the strongest we've seen so far.
Yeah,
he's scary to other Viltrumites.
Yeah, exactly.
Other Viltrumites don't want to associate with him because he freaks them out. And, he has a moment where he's whispering in Mark's ear about how lonely he is and stuff. And it's just, he's just psychotic and he's deranged, he's bloodthirsty, and he's lonely.
Yeah, he's bloodthirsty and he's lonely. I've just done things like almost kill Oliver, who very sillily gets himself, involved, but he's a kid, he doesn't understand.
Yeah, he almost rips Oliver in half.
Yeah.
He's literally pulling him apart slowly, and that's the only thing that saves Oliver is that he's doing it slowly.
Yes. Where Mark is able to recover in time to save him.
Yeah. Mark and him are fighting. Adam Eve joins the fight. She gets wasted.
Yeah, she gets wasted. Oh my god. Did you think for a second Adam Eve was done they just killed off Rex, now they're going to kill off Eve? She looked pretty dead. She's
kind of the most powerful character in the show.
She is.
And we know this not from the show itself so much until now. We know that from the Adam Eve special.
Yeah, from the Adam Eve special, yeah.
Where we find out that she's got these limiters built into her that make her power more that she can't do everything. She can't affect biological matter and stuff like that.
She can't consciously use the full extent of her abilities, but basically her abilities resurrect her. Not only was she able to resurrect herself, but she was also able to fire off a blast that really, really damaged Conquest.
Yeah.
Did some damage.
Yeah, if it wasn't for her, Mark wouldn't have won.
Yeah, it wasn't for her, Mark wouldn't have won. It's pretty crazy, and she was only able to do that once. And the thing is, she explains she was only able to tap into that power because she was basically on the brink of death.
Yeah, there's a brief window when she basically dies and is resurrected by her own ability, and that brief window allows her to access her full abilities without any limiters, and then that's over. And the same thing happened in the Adam Eve special, where she was able to do things that she normally can't, but only for a very limited time. And that's the case here. It's not like she's now that powerful that she can do that all the time. It's already passed. That moment's over. She can't do it again unless she is in that situation again, where she's almost dying again.
Yeah.
Which kind of implies that she went there specifically to get killed in order to do that.
Yeah, which I don't think
because there was a whole moment between her and Cecil, where Cecil's don't do this. And he apparently knows, what's going on with her. And she says, I have to do it or whatever. And I think the implication is that she knew she was going to be.
I don't think she knew she was going to be I'm going to be near death and then have that full access to my powers. I think the idea was she was going to go and help Mark, and she knows she's probably going to die, that this Viltrumite is most likely going to kill her, but she's going to do it anyway because she wants to be there for Mark. She doesn't want to sit on the sidelines.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think there was a moment in her conversation with Cecil where it seemed obvious that she had a certain confidence when she went into the battle, knowing that, I think she knew that was going to happen.
Right.
And she was kind of initiating it. And it wasn't like she just walked up and let him kill her so that she could, activate her ability and do that. That's she was trying not to do that, but she knew that I think that was going to happen.
Right, right.
And she ended up being able to kind of blast off basically a lot of his flesh, Conquest flesh, and then Mark ended up being able to get the win.
Bashed his face in pretty good. Spoilers,
Angstrom
Conquest.
levied him.
Yeah, spoilers, Conquest survives being Angstrom levied because, like...
He's a Viltrumite.
Yeah, he's a Viltrumite. Yeah, exactly.
Viltrumites recover.
Cecil, like, assures Mark that Conquest is dead and even shows him his incapacitated body, which Mark takes for dead, but then we see, like, Cecil has him locked up in this, like, very high security, like, he's contained in metal and he's, like, buried halfway beneath the earth, and he's still alive.
Yeah.
And Cecil's, like, logic behind it is, like,
he wants information.
They need to get information. He needs to get information about Viltrum. I think this is going to end up being, like, the biggest mistake Cecil has made in the show.
Probably.
Yeah. I think this is going to be, like, Cecil's biggest L, but, I mean, the logic is behind it is sound.
Mm-hmm.
But not only that, because, like, you know how these things go. Conquest is going to get free somehow, right? And then, like, not only is that going to be a disaster, but, like, Mark is going to know, like, he didn't die and that Cecil lied to him again, and that's going to deepen that rift.
Yeah, because this season doesn't end with them reestablishing trust.
No.
It ends with an understanding that Mark's like, you can still call me if it gets really bad, but other than that, I don't want to see you or talk to you.
Right, yeah, exactly. I want nothing to do with you otherwise.
Yeah, and so that it ends with an understanding, but not with, like, any kind of peace between them of any kind. We should talk about Omni-Man.
Yeah, Omni-Man. Yeah, Omni-Man, you know, and Al the Alien out in space. Like, that side story, which we know from last season. Omni-Man has been captured by Viltrumites, you know, like, after he betrayed the Empire, and he's basically set for execution, and Alan the Alien is there to try and break him out and save him, except Omni-Man doesn't want to be saved.
Mm-hmm.
This leads to, like, Omni-Man's, you know, he's about to be executed, and Alan saves him anyway.
Alan kind of, like, lays around and lets himself get beaten up by a Viltrumite specifically to make Omni-Man save him.
Yes.
So that can kind of break him out of his...
By the way, like,
state.
they also find on the Viltrumite prison ship, they also find Battle Beast, who is in prison there. Alan does.
Yep.
And so Battle Beast gets involved too.
Battle Beast, voiced by Michael Dorn. Worf from Star Trek The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine.
Which is really fun. And so Alan manages to free Omni-Man and Battle Beast. And that's when Omni-Man drops a bombshell on Alan and reveals there's only 50 pure-blood Viltrumites left in the universe.
But he says less than.
Less
he doesn't know how many there actually are, but there's less than 50.
Yeah.
So that's making it just seem much more plausible that they'd be able to take them out, be able to fight the Viltrum Empire. It just seemed like such an impossible task, but this makes it seem much, much more likely.
Yeah.
If there's only 50 of them left.
And that's kind of like where that storyline ends for the season. I mean, it's a slow burn storyline. It's in the back pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Like, more's going to happen with that. Yeah, really cool to see it. And then we got a scene at the end of the season with Damien Darkblood summoning a demon.
He summons Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, summons Bruce Campbell, and then they're talking about, like, their master being able to inhabit or take over. Like, the most powerful being has arrived on the planet that they've ever seen on the planet.
Mm-hmm. Well, they imply that the master is Bruce Campbell's character, the demon.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
We don't know that for sure, but it's implied.
Yeah.
And, so you have these demon characters. Damien Darkblood was like, I think he got exiled back to hell, and when the last time we saw him was like early in season 1, maybe like episode 3 or something of season 1. So it's been a while since we've seen him. It's a storyline that was going to be in the comics, but never made it to the comics just because they never got around to that story. Like
so this
deadlines,
is
other things that never got around to it.
So this is like a setup for a unique storyline that's going to happen next season.
Yeah, but it's interesting because it's not like unique created by the creators of the show without involvement. This is like something that was going to be in the comic books but never materialized.
Oh yeah.
That's what makes it like really interesting. Is like it's like a second chance to explore a storyline that they didn't get to do before.
Yeah, which is awesome. And I mean, that's the benefit of doing stuff in like new media and stuff is like, you know, you can explore new avenues, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I like that they're willing to do that.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's not like such a hard thing, like, no, you must only do the comic material.
And then we also got the return of the Sequids on Earth in the sewers.
That's like another like slow burn storyline, that's like been in the background like this whole time, and like will maybe come more into the foreground next season.
Yeah. Speaking of slow burn storylines that kind of play out here and there, we got to go to Egypt again.
Oh yeah, with the mummy.
Yeah.
That's not a storyline. That's not leading.
That's hilarious. I love
hilarious.
it every time it shows up, though.
That is a running gag. Yeah.
I know some people complain about that, but I love it.
I love it too. Like it looks like it's finally like going somewhere, and then like nope.
Yeah. He was like, "Oh, somebody invaded my tomb. I can take over them." It's like, "Oh, they're women. Oh, I'm a misogynist. I can't."
Yeah, It's like, oh, shut up, you misogynist.
And then he shows up again here because it's like, was it Conquest and Mark? Like he was chasing them, or was it one of the other Invincibles? I can't remember.
It was one of the other Invincibles. It was during the Invincible War, so it was like one of the Marks, and he was gonna take over them, and then they just like flew off before he could, and he's like, oh.
Then the girls finally escaped that he saw in the last season, and they're like, you ever think that maybe you deserve to be banished back here? And he's like, bah.
Yeah. It's like freaking misogynistic creep.
It's just such a funny little running gag. I love it that they keep bringing that back up. It would be funny if they actually turned it into like a real plot at some point.
It would be funny, yeah.
Like they tease it as this running gag all this time, and then eventually he actually does get control of the body,
Right.
Sets it up like it's going to be a big plot point, and then he just gets like easily defeated or something.
Yeah, he just gets like one punched into oblivion, and then, that's it.
Yeah. He shows up, takes over like some hero's body, comes up, and it happens like right at the Viltrumite War, and just gets slaughtered by like Conquest or something. Just like immediately. That would be like a really funny way to finish that off. But yeah, so that's Invincible season 3. There's a lot of other stuff that we didn't get to, but I mean, there's just too much. It was a pretty dense season. Lots of different storylines going on. I think this is a good point to end it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
What did you think of this season of Invincible?
I loved it. I thought it was awesome. I thought like it was really well done.
And it wasn't split into 2 parts.
Yeah, it wasn't split into 2 parts. So like there was no awkwardness around that. That was bad. Like that was not just me. Like that, like most people I've seen on the internet agree, like that was bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't have too much of an issue with it just because I knew like, oh yeah, they're gonna pick up for the rest of the season, and I'm pretty accepting of that, but I know a lot of people had issue with it. This is the same kind of thing a lot of people had issue with like the last season of House of the Dragon for similar reasons,
Right.
Yeah.
I think like things like flowed better this season too, since they weren't thinking in terms of, part 1 and part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think like the season flowed much better this year.
I don't think they were thinking in terms of part 1 and part 2 of season 2. That was just like because of the strike or something. Like it just turned out that way. Like it wasn't planned to be split, but they managed to not split it this time, which was good. Yeah. So Invincible season 3, you dug it? You liked it more than Boy Kills World?
I liked it more than Boy Kills World. Yes.
And there wasn't even, Bill Skarsgård wasn't even in this.
No, maybe they'll get Bill Skarsgård for season 4.
Yeah, he'll play Count Orlok.
Yeah, I mean, they get everybody, it seems, for this, so like, yeah, why not?
Who else was in this that we didn't mention? Because there are a few new ones. Simu Liu.
Simu Liu, yeah, it was, Multi-Paul, Multi-Cates. I don't believe we mentioned Multi-Paul. Multi-Paul shows up. He is
Duplicate's brother, yeah.
Duplicate's brother, yeah, and he's an assassin for, like, this organization called the Order.
Mm-hmm.
He shows up to, like, beat up on Rex for, like, Multi-Cate's death, which the rumors of Multi-Cate's death are highly exaggerated.
Yeah. John DiMaggio played
John
the elephant.
DiMaggio, the elephant, yeah, villain, they were using to, teach
Oliver how to fight. Yeah, it was
teach
funny.
Oliver how to fight.
That was a funny moment where, like, Mark's like, Dad made me beat up Elephant Man a lot, too. Yeah. Elephant Man's like, I'm a person.
He's like, what? Cool. Oh yeah, because he's like, doing his crime, he's like, wait, you're using me for training?
I'm not a tool, I'm a person.
Yeah, John DiMaggio was, like, perfect for that.
Yeah. We got Machine Head returned.
Jeffrey Donovan, Machine Head. Yeah.
Machine Head, she showed up and he said, I used to be a spy.
Yeah.
Until you got a blacklist on you. And then he whistled, and then somebody said something about, spies, bunch of bitchy little girls. Jeffrey Donovan from Burn Notice played Machine Head. He was in it again. He's great. Yeah.
We mentioned Jonathan Banks as Brit. That was a minor character.
We talked about Aaron Paul, but we didn't talk about Jonathan Banks. Yeah, Britt was like an older hero that kind of was just seen very quickly. We don't really know anything about him from the show. I think he's a comic book character, so like people who read the comics and stuff know who he is. But from the show, there's like
the show he doesn't
an
get a
older
lot of
hero.
screen time.
That's all we know about him.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
That we didn't mention before. So yeah.
Yeah, but that's it. So thank you everybody for listening. Next week, we are going to be talking about Nintendo Switch 2. It's going to be a week away.
The Direct is around the corner.
It's going to be next week. It'll be a week away from the Direct. And so we're going to do a predictions Direct. We're going to be predicting things that are going to be coming up in that Switch 2 Direct. We have a format in place. We're going to make our predictions in a few different categories and ideas. And that's basically going to be our show next week.
In the year 2000.
Year 2000.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to talk about Switch 2, the Switch successor, and our predictions for the Nintendo Direct that reveals everything, basically. And then the week after that, we're going to be talking about the Direct and seeing how many of our predictions came true.
Conan's going to copyright strike this podcast now.
Yes.
And
but he should.
He should, yeah. But yeah, that's going to be super fun. I always look forward to like doing these predictions. So like, that's going to be a fun podcast to have.
Yeah, so that's going to be next week. So tune in for that. If you're hyped for the Switch 2, you can see what you think of our predictions. You can just listen, and the whole time we're talking, just go, "Oh, that's stupid. That's never going to happen."
Exactly. You can get in the comments and you can argue with us. Tell me how stupid I am.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Please.
We're going to make our predictions. We're going to predict the release date. We're going to predict the MSRP. We're going to predict the different SKUs that are going to be available. We're going to predict what games are going to be at launch. We're going to predict how NSO is going to work on the system. We're going to predict what that mysterious C button does. We're just going to basically go through a bunch of different things
C button.
that we don't know.
Yeah, C button. It's catering.
Yeah.
It's going to order on-demand catering.
Yes, a caterer is going to show up to your house with some trays of like barbecue ribs.
Yeah.
And mashed potatoes, and you're going to be able to feast while you play.
While you game. Revolutionary.
Yeah, just completely new type of gameplay. But yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about next week, so stay tuned for that. Until then, you can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will on those platforms. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you go to our website and open up a container store for any of our podcast episodes and scroll down to the bottom paragraph, you will find all of the links to our social accounts, our RSS feed for the podcast, all that stuff's there, so you can check that there. You can also go to our YouTube channel where you can find the entirety of our podcast. The entire backlog is all there, as well as additional content we put out over the years. And you can subscribe to our podcast through your favorite podcast client of choice, like Apple Podcasts or Pocket Cast. Just look up OnScreen or the OnScreen podcast or Total Screen or however it works best for you in your podcast client search function. But you can subscribe there as well. So please do. Until next week, thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.